let me read you the phone call. And like I said, I do have verification that this was a real conversation that somebody had. I'll read from the text. I called Isaac, and when we first started speaking, all of a sudden a loud noise was heard, and Isaac said, "I think my tire just blew out." He said he didn't have a spare and didn't really know what to do, and then said, "I'm just going to sit here and talk with you." We talked for over an hour. The first thing that Isaac said was that he had messed up and felt he had let me down and everyone else, because while in his isolation, he was trying to gamble and turn what little money he had into something that could help change his current situation. I told him that is very forgivable and most people wouldn't blame you. He said he did something to try and make a lot of money, but it was something he regretted immediately and not intended to harm. My only question for him was, did what you did compromise any victims or children? And he said absolutely not. Just commentary. A lot of people were suggesting he might have doxed victims or people he was working with or researchers, and he vigorously denied that in private conversations and in groups and to anybody who asked him about it. He vigorously denied doxing anybody or putting anybody into trouble that way. Back to the transcript here. I wanted to spend what little time we had telling him how much he was loved and how much Jesus loved him and was proud of him. That he was not a traitor to the kingdom of God. That Jesus died for our sins. I said, "Speak the words out. I forgive myself." To which he did, and added that Jesus was his Lord and Savior. And at that moment he had the most loving, calm peace in his voice. Isaac said he felt like he was going to die sooner than later. Isaac said he felt like he was going to die sooner than later. That he would always have a target on his back. He wanted nothing more than to have a wife and 2 kids, but that he was extremely aware of his situation and would never want to put anyone else in danger. He felt horrible about not being able to be a better person in his life. To which I asked him if he knew about the Apostle Paul, and he said, "Go on." I told him that Paul murdered Christians before he accepted the call to which would lead him to write most of the New Testament as the ultimate example of grace and forgiveness. This goes on. He then told me he had such a calmness, and that made him feel better than he had in years. I said, "Did you know there were 2 other men crucified at the same time as Jesus, and one of the men defended Jesus and told those in the crowd to leave him alone, and he had done miracles and shouldn't be crucified. Jesus lifted his head and turned and said to him, 'You will be with me in paradise on this day.'" I said, "Isaac Kappy, you are not a reincarnation of Judas. You are a brave soul who has been pushed to the edge of sanity with all of the trauma you have taken on in helping abused children." He said, "Thank you so much." Then he had a self-destructive streak in his spirit, and that he felt was finally released in that moment. He said he knew what he had done would get him in a lot of trouble, but that he could not bear his situation any longer, and he told me the type of trouble he was in was the worst kind. We prayed, and then I told him I would try to find someone that could help him since he didn't know much about where he was at. And it was very desolate. He told me he was at peace and that he was ready for whatever was about to happen. And he was ready to be free of this trauma. He felt he would always give his life for this cause. I asked him if the group, Familam, that would be a group, research group, I guess he was in with others, was in danger, and he said absolutely not, and that they had provided so much love and comfort, and he loved them very much. He said he wanted to continue to pray. I told him to check his messages after his prayer because I was going to send him the number for emergency road services, and I also wanted him to read the scripture about Paul. He told me he loved me and thanked me for seeing the light in him. I told him I love him, and no matter what, I promised him from this moment on, He would not be alone while he was stranded, but that the Lord's angel would come and be with him. He told me he loved me and thanked me for seeing the light in him. I told him I love him and okay. He said that was the best news he heard all day. He sounded peaceful. I told him I would check on him in a few hours and we hung up. Please understand beyond a shadow of a doubt that Isaac did not pass in fear or in pain. We need to understand that his traumatic suffering is over, but now he truly lives as he is rejoicing and singing in heaven with the angels. When you feel sad, as we all do, remember this. Quote, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." Like I said, based on the research I've done and the people I've spoken with, this is a accurate, or as far as this person knows, accurate retelling of his or her final conversation with Issac Kappy, and helps shed some light on what he might have been doing in that area, although doesn't answer all of the questions, why he got on the bridge and so forth.
My name is Rand Campbell. This is Flat Out Elected. If you guys don't know who Issac Kappy was, he was an actor in Hollywood. Not a great big name, but he was certainly in movies. He was certainly in with the Hollywood elite. He went to all of the mansion parties. He rubbed shoulders with the best of the best. He knew them. He knew all of them. And then a day would come where Issac seen more than he cared to see. And he began the process of exposing Hollywood. A lot of names. He dropped a lot of names. From Tom Hanks to Robert De Niro to Seth Green to Spielberg, and the list goes on and on and on. The things that he said about these celebrities would rip at your very soul. Now, I don't think at this point it is far stretched that you would believe that Hollywood is a lot darker than we ever knew. Now, a lot of people said that Kappy was an insider and that he was Illuminati and that he was a shill. I don't know that to be true. I spoke with him on a couple of occasions, and we spoke about things in respects to him looking like a shill in certain things that he was doing. Was he a shill? I highly doubt it. I don't think anybody that would have the possible lifestyle that he had right there in front of him, right at his hands, making a lot of money in Hollywood, what is supposed to be an amazing life. But if you've done any research into Hollywood, then you are aware at this point of just how insidious and evil Hollywood actually is. It's not even close to the glamorous sparkle lifestyle that everybody portrays it to be. This is why a lot of the Hollywood elite and a lot of the celebrities only ever are caught smiling on camera when they know the camera is on them. When you catch them privately, they are far from happy, because something is going on in Hollywood, and Issac Kappy was exposing that. Now, here's the question. They say he allegedly committed suicide, that he went to a bridge and forced himself over the bridge, and that there were two young people there that were trying to stop him, and he forced himself over the bridge. The bridge doesn't look high enough for anybody to choose as a bridge to commit suicide. However, in this alleged story, he got hit by a vehicle when he went over the bridge. So when he hit the ground, when he hit the pavement, he got ran over. This is the alleged suicide story. Now let's talk about it being a suicide. Let's go with that it is a suicide, and that in fact he did commit suicide. You've got a guy who claimed in almost every single video that he was not suicidal and that he would never commit suicide. Does that mean he didn't? No, that doesn't mean he didn't. But it certainly sheds a light on the fact that he knew his life was in danger. And of course it would be in danger. He's calling out some very rich and powerful people in Hollywood. He's not just calling them out, he's actually accusing them of being pedophiles and involved in child sex slavery. That is a heavy accusation to put on any human being, let alone the rich and famous, let alone people with that kind of power. So of course he's going to have a fear for his life. Of course he's going to be a target. But you would think that the target would be a courtroom, that he would be charged and placed into a courtroom on slander for false accusations. You would think that if these people were innocent, they would be all over the news putting him in a courtroom to shut him up. But that's not what happened. Did the pressure get to Issac? Was it too much for him to handle? Was his life crumbling around him because he was doing what he believed to be the right thing? And if in fact Hollywood is what he says it is, him exposing it would be the right thing. And anybody that would say otherwise is completely and totally out of their mind. If you knew that the people in your workplace were actual pedophiles involved in sexual activities with children and involved in sex trade industries and sex trade groups that are selling and raping children all over the world, if you knew that and didn't say anything, then your silence would be your consent. In other words, then you would be in agreement with that. Clearly, he was not in agreement with this type of activity. Clearly, this ate at his soul. Is it possible? Is it possible that it got to him, that the pressure, that the stress of it all got to him and he saw no other way out but to commit suicide? He does admit that he did something recently that was unforgivable. What was that? Who knows? Was he made to say that? I don't know. If you watch his last video, you're going to see that he's very nervous. The dog barks in the background or there's a noise and he looks back in a paranoid way, like he knows somebody's coming for him. Is that speculation? Probably. But it's certainly something to think about. You see, I spoke to Issac on a couple of occasions, and I had a grasp of where he was coming from and who it is that he was. He was a man with a big heart. Now, he was a bit weird, but I don't know a Hollywood actor that isn't. I don't know somebody that's into the arts that isn't a little bit strange. But he had a good heart. He had a really, really good heart. And if you spoke to him, you would have seen that. What he felt he was doing out of love. And now he's dead. Now he is no more. Was it suicide? Let's look at the other option. The other option is that he was taken out. Is this a stretch? Is this an impossibility? Well, let's look at this situation. So he's calling the most powerful people in Hollywood with tons of money and tons of connections. He's calling them pedophiles and saying that they're involved in sex trade rings, sex slavery. Is it possible that they had enough money and enough power and enough motive and enough intent to have him shut up? To me, it's the greatest censorship in the world. That's how they censored Jesus Christ. They killed him. They didn't like what he was saying. It went against their plan. It went against their lifestyles. It went against their agendas. And so they killed him. That is the greatest censorship. Was Issac Kappy censored? Was he killed? That's something to think about. It's very, very possible. It's a strong possibility that he was shut up and censored and taken out. And you might think that's the only reason why, is that they just wanted to shut him up and get him to stop talking. But think about this possibility. There are a lot of people that know what he knew. There are a lot of people on the inside that are involved and have seen more than they care to have ever seen. Is it possible that Issac Kappy is an example of what would happen to them if they ever opened their mouths? Do you think that fear would be running strong through the Hollywood community right now for anybody that thought they were going to get on board and start exposing what they know? Is Issac Kappy an example of what happens to people that go against the evils in this? And if that's a true, strong possibility, then you need to think about that as a truther in your own life. You need to think about that as a Christian who is supposed to expose the evils of this world. I believe that Issac Kappy was speaking from his heart. I believe that Issac Kappy was speaking from experience, from the things that he's seen in Hollywood. I believe he was a target. Is it possible that it got to him and he committed suicide? Yes, that's possible. Is it equally as possible that he was taken out? Yes, absolutely, that is possible. Will we ever know? Probably not. But here's what we do know. If you ever go against the evils in this world, you will wear a target. And eventually that target will get hit. This is the world that we live in. We live in a satanic ritual, period. I've said it so many times. I hope it's sunk in for somebody. This world is absolutely evil, and the God of this world is Satan. And it matters not that you believe he exists, because the bottom line is this. The people at the top of this world, the people running this world, in business, in the pharmaceutical industry, the medical industry, media, entertainment, education, science, politics, the people at the very top do believe Satan exists. And they serve him. And they serve him in ways you would never, ever be able to understand. There are blood sacrifices. There are recruiting. There are humiliation rituals. There are baby rituals. There are rape rituals. And it's serious. It's really that serious. Did Issac Kappy die because he exposed this? Or did the pressure get to him that he couldn't take it any longer and took himself out? That question is going to be for you to decide. You make that decision. I'm not going to make it for you. In my very, very humble opinion, I'll end it by saying this. If you ever want to stop people from telling the truth, look no further than the cross, because that's exactly what they did. They shut up the truth on that cross because Jesus Christ said, I am the truth, I am the way, and nobody gets to the Father but through me. They shut the truth up on that cross. And make no mistake about it, if you are a conveyor or a messenger of truth, they're going to censor you. They're going to censor you on the internet. They're going to censor you on the street corner. They're going to censor you at work. They're going to censor you in your own families, in your own groups and circles of friends. They're going to censor you. And one day will come, and you mark my words, where they will have no problem killing Christians who tell the truth, killing Christians who take God at his word and go against the very agendas that have this world greatly deceived. As hard as that video was for most people to watch, to understand the seriousness of what's going on in this world, and to understand the seriousness of the censorship, to the degree of actually taking a life, possibly, to the degree of possibly taking a life, to the stress and the emotion of being a truther in these days, going against the evils of this world, because that's a lot to do. It's not easy. It's easy to know it and say nothing. It's easy to see it and ignore it. It's easy to pretend it doesn't exist. But it is never easy to be a voice of truth in this day. The way this world is right now, you are going to take a lot of backlash. You're going to take a lot of heat, and you are going to be a target. Make no mistake about that. So I know it's very difficult for people to hear about the story of Issac Kappy who may have committed suicide because of the pressure, who may have been made to commit suicide, or who may have simply been taken out. I know that's a lot to think about, but it happened. And it's going to happen more and more. And if they accomplished anything, they accomplished this. People are afraid to speak out. People are seriously imprisoned into their own lies and knowledge of the deceptions and the evil that goes on in this world. People will not speak out. Even pastors that you would think would take a pulpit and tell the truth in today's world won't. People ignore the truth. They don't want to know. They're afraid to know this truth. But more importantly, they're afraid to be a messenger of it. I pray that God received Issac Kappy by the sounds of things he did. I know that I spoke to him a lot about God, and I spoke to him a lot about getting right with Jesus Christ. I sincerely hope that he did that before he left. He was a nice guy. He meant well. He had a good heart. He thought he was doing the right thing, and I believe he was. I ask that you pray for him, and you pray for any truth or anybody that is taking their life, putting it at risk by telling the truth in this deceived world. I ask that you really, really pray for people doing that. I ask that you pray for those that are caught up in the imprisonment of the deceptions of this world and the evil and insidious behaviors of what's going on behind the curtain, and that they would be able to come to terms with coming out and telling the truth. Pray for them. If you guys enjoy these videos, sub the channel, share the videos, hit the like button, hit the bell for updates. Become a member of our other channel, which is our live stream channel, Flat Out Elected Family. It's a good channel. You'll enjoy it. If you can, become a Patreon. Hit the Patreon link. Become a Patreon and save these videos. Help protect this channel. Hit the PayPal link as well to help others, help the least of us. There are people in need. If you care to share through me. I promise you, you'll put a smile on a child's face. I ask that God bless you guys. You guys take real good care of yourselves. Put on that armor of God. We are in very, 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 very serious times. God bless.
Is when you talking to the principalities and reminding the powers and telling them who you are and what's going to happen. That's when you get an attitude. We have access to God with boldness and confidence. We can go boldly to the throne of God. We can go confidently to him. But what does the devil do? He keeps bringing up your past. He keeps bringing up your failures. He keeps bringing up your shortcomings. I'm not going to God on the basis of my righteousness, not my righteousness. I'm going on the basis of his righteousness and who he